Okay, today's woodwork joint we're going to be looking at is called a Stockhausen joint, and you're going to make two of these. We're also going to have a practice one before we start, but I'm going to show you how to mark out the real thing. We have a piece of wood here which is 385 by 135 and it's 16mm thick. The drawing tells us to measure in 15 from the end. I put my rule on there and I measure in 15. I then need the thickness of the wood, T, which in this case is 16, and I'm being very accurate and tight and bringing it right in there. I'll take my square and I'll square two lines up. Now I don't go all the way through. The drawing also tells me that it's 30 from the end, 30 from the end onto there, and that's what's called my stop. I don't want it to go all the way through, I stop it. I'll mark on my waste wood. I'll use my vise to assist me so that I can use my marking gauge, which is set to halfway. We know how to set to halfway, we've done it hundreds of times. And I score a wee line along there. Square off two ends on here, and we get the Stockhausen like so. Okay, this bit has to fit in here, and there's a wee overhang. We cut out what we call a check, and that wee check there is 20mm in, and I just do it with that mark. And I take my marking gauge again, and I go round three sides of it, 1, 2, 3. I'll then use my square, and it's 1, 2, 3 across the top. That's waste wood, that's going to come off, and the last wee bit here, and that's my check that's going to come out, and that's going to go in there. I'm now ready to start cutting this, and to do that, our desks are not flat, so I would recommend all the time that we go for a chisel board. I'm going to use a white one purely so that you can see what I'm doing. Here I've marked out my practice piece, and I'm going to use my check to help me. I'm going to use my check to give me my straight edge there, and it also assists me when I'm clamping using a G-clamp to the desk. And I can use it as a saw mark. Another tip I've shown you lots and lots of times before is if you take your tri-square and if we score down here, it gives us a start for the saw. So if I score down there, it gives me a wee start for the saw, and it makes it easier for my saw to start. And here I've marked an X. There it is there. And I'm going to call that my pocket because I'm going to cut out a square hole first of all. So I'm going to clamp all this to the desk very firmly with a G-clamp, like so. And I'm going to use my small chisel. And I'm going to use a mallet. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting across here what we call a pocket. And I can hit it fairly hard. Now when we're using pine, I will put a bit of masking tape on it because we don't want to split the grain. And you can see I'm going a wee bit deeper each time, and when I cut across it, I get a pocket out. And I want it deep enough, not quite halfway, but maybe about a third of the way. And this is a runoff area that my saw is going to go into. Perfect. So, I'm now going to use my spare bit of wood here, and I'm going to put it on there so I've got a perfect saw mark. I've got it squared, and I'm going to saw this line. And to saw that line, take my 10-on saw, start at a wee angle, going up the way, and I'm right in against my mark here, then straighten it up, and as I straighten it up, the nose of my 10-on saw goes into the pocket. keep an eye, you're only going halfway here. The nose of the tenon saw into the pocket. And I can tilt my saw up just a wee bit, particularly with MDF, it's quite easy. Slide it over again. And make sure I'm cutting inside the line. Same again. And into the pocket. I'll move this along to give myself a bit of space. And it's still G-clamped to the desk. I'll check my saw cuts. And again, I'll lean up or down, whatever way I need, so that I can take this out. Again, small chisel, hand over it, always chiseling up the way, start at the top. MDF's nice and easy. Now if it sticks, always rub it with the saw. If it's not cutting well, some of these might be blunt at the front because they get dropped on metal. So have a look at another one. And we chisel. And the idea is that this bit here is going to fit my piece of MDF called my check piece of MDF. Now there'll be spare bits about when you do this, particularly with the pine. You don't want to put the metal straight onto the pine. So that's going to go in there. So I need this wee bit here cut off. Again, always go to the outside of the line. Use your knuckle as a guide when we're sawing. Nice and easy. And you've got a choice. You can chisel, you can saw, whatever way you want. I prefer chiseling it. Maybe I prefer sawing it. And we cut out the check. And that bit's to fit in there. Fairly tight. And we'll get that down. There's a lot of work still to be done in here. It's a combination of tools. Use a granny's tooth as well. So if I go to the cupboard there, get myself a granny's tooth. Again, you need the space when you're working with that, slide that along a wee touch. I need to check using the depth gauge, loosen it, turn it, get it to the right depth, and we push it along. And if it sticks, rub it with a saw. Now this part of the operation, because I've already cut my pocket, I could probably fit into the vise. Be careful when you do it with the pine though, you don't hit it too hard or you'll break it. See, I'm turning the chisel to either side. Taking off the end. Granny's tooth. Peter, perfect. Starting to look good. And the final thing is that's to fit in there. Good stuff. It might need a wee bit off the end. And there we have a practice stop housing joint. Now if you've done one, you're then going to mark it out for pine, and we're doing 2 of these. Okay, that's all for today.